Bang, that was pathetic. A tray crashed to the marble floor, shattering china, and silence fell over the ballroom of the Lux Pacific Hotel. Heads turned not in concern, but in amusement as the Harringtons, San Francisco's most feared millionaire dynasty, sneered at the trembling waitress who had dropped it, Emily Harper. Pathetic, one of them hissed, loud enough for the crowd to hear. They thought she would cower in shame. Little did they know that in less than 60 seconds, this nobody would take center stage, take the microphone, and reveal a $50 million truth that would rip through the city's elite like a bolt of lightning. What followed was a moment no one in that glittering room would ever forget. The humiliation of the night had been paid off. Emily Harper stepped into her shift at the Lux Pacific Hotel as if stepping onto a stage she knew all too well. The tray in her hands was a perfect balance of weight and grace, gliding through a sea of glittering gowns, tailored suits, and the perfumed air of San Francisco's elite. At 28, she was the image of quiet resilience, porcelain skin catching the golden glow of crystal chandeliers, blonde hair pulled back with military precision, green eyes that shone with unspoken stories. She had mastered the art of invisibility, a skill honed out of necessity in a world where millionaire guests saw her as nothing more than a passing shadow, useful only when serving their needs, forgettable the moment she walked away. Her polite smile was not weakness, it was armor. Behind it lived a mind that noticed everything. The flicker of false warmth in a handshake, the subtle tightening of a jaw during a deal, the sharp cruelty that often hid beneath silk and diamonds. Every condescending remark she swallowed became a brick in the fortress of her endurance. To most, the Lux Pacific was an untouchable fortress of the American dream, red-carpeted corridors, opulent suites, and whispered deals between Silicon Valley titans over vintage wine. But for Emily, it was a stage for her double life. By day, she moved unseen between the tables of power. By night, in a modest Oakland apartment, she turned the fragile pages of a worn leather diary. It belonged to Clara, her grandmother, her guardian, her compass who had raised her after a house fire, stole her parents when she was only 12. Clara's life was a testament to grit. From greasy counters in 1,952nd Los Angeles diners to commanding a West Coast real estate empire, Clara had taught her that true wealth wasn't counted in dollars, but in dignity and how you treated people when the world told you they were worth nothing. Those lessons became the rhythm of Emily's heartbeat. And yet, nothing could prepare her for the letter that arrived 3 months after Clara's funeral. It was a shock so great it left her breathless. Clara had left her a $50 million fortune in properties and investments, but only if Emily spent 2 full years living as someone the world ignores. She would have to know the sting of dismissal, the ache of being unseen, the daily insult of being treated as lesser. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation, the same kind of trial Clara herself had endured in an era when her gender and poverty were seen as immovable walls. Now, with only 17 days left, Emily was certain she had passed the test. She was stronger, sharper, ready to rise and use her fortune to lift others. But then, the storm came. The Harrington family swept into the hotel lobby with the arrogance of royalty. At their center was Alexander Harrington, a tech mogul whose wealth was matched only by his disdain. His eyes flicked over her like she was a speck of dust on his tailored sleeve. And then came the words cold, cutting, cruel, useless. It was just one word, but it was the match that fell into the tinder she had carried for 2 years. Her hands stilled, her heartbeat roared in her ears. In that instant, Emily knew. She could keep her silence, or she could turn this glittering room into the epicenter of a reckoning. What would you do if someone pushed you past your breaking point? Swallow the insult, or let the truth burn the walls down? From the moment Alexander Harrington stepped into the lobby of the Lux Pacific Hotel, the atmosphere seemed to grow heavier, as if a silent storm had swept into the opulence of San Francisco. With confident strides and eyes scanning everything as if it were his personal domain, he epitomized the pinnacle of California's elite, those who turned the American dream into a symbol of unrelenting power. Alexander, 54, exuded authority in a tailored Hugo Boss suit, his salt and pepper hair impeccably groomed, always holding his head high like the king of Silicon Valley, where he had amassed millions through tech investments and Bay Area real estate. The Harrington family's wealth wasn't just numbers on paper, it was a legacy spanning 4 generations. From shrewd deals in Palo Alto to Pacific Ocean view mansions, where they viewed success as a natural right, unearned by struggle. Beside Alexander was Victoria, his 9-year-old wife, whose sharp beauty had been honed over decades of socializing and elite galas. She wore a cream-colored Dior gown, every gesture radiating calculated elegance, like a social strategist perpetually upholding the family's flawless image. Their son, Dylan, 25, was an arrogant replica of his father, endlessly scrolling on his phone, treating the world around him as mere backdrop for his inherited ambitions. He represented the young elite, those raised in luxury, where everything came so easily that they forgot the value of labor. Then there was Isabella, their 6-year-old daughter, walking more slowly, her gentle green eyes seeming out of place amid the family's ostentation. She possessed an innocent beauty, but beneath it lay a growing unease, like a crack in the polished facade the family worked so hard to conceal. They had flown from their Palo Alto mansion to the hotel not just to relax, but to prepare for tonight's charity gala, where Alexander planned to announce his political ambitions, running for San Francisco's city council. For him, this wasn't merely a social event, it was a chance to solidify his status, a platform to preach about success and responsibility without acknowledging the injustices right under his feet. As Emily approached with her tray of coffee, Alexander stopped her, his scornful tone echoing through the lobby, demanding exclusive service for their suite with blatant disdain, as if she were merely an obstacle in his path. Victoria and Dylan smirked, adding their own remarks about Emily's lowly position, emphasizing that she should be grateful to serve people like them. Isabella lowered her head, her face flushing with embarrassment, but she didn't dare speak, creating a heavy silence amid the luxurious surroundings. Emily maintained her outward calm, but her heart pounded. This was the culmination of 2 years witnessing blind arrogance, where people like the Harringtons saw their success as proof of innate superiority, forgetting that the true American dream was built on the resilience of those they dismissed. Alexander doubled down on his stance, sharply distinguishing between those born to lead and those destined to serve, as if proclaiming a natural social hierarchy he believed in. The contrast between their ostentatious wealth and Emily's quiet humility only highlighted the essence of blind arrogance, where privilege obscured compassion. Can you guess what happens next? Take a moment to relax, comment, "1" or "I'm still here" to keep listening. After the sharp, scornful words from Alexander Harrington still echoed in the lobby of the Lux Pacific Hotel, Emily quietly retreated to the staff break room, where the air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and pent-up thoughts. Her hands tightly gripped a cold teacup, as if trying to hold on to the last shred of calm amid the storm of emotions Alexander had stirred. In that moment, her grandmother Clara's words came alive more vividly than ever, like a lighthouse guiding her through the darkness. Dignity is something no one can take away, unless you surrender it yourself. A truth forged from Clara's own life. Emily recalled the sleepless nights cleaning rooms for dismissive guests, turning each contemptuous gesture into a lesson about the responsibility that comes with wealth, not to hoard it, but to uplift others. Recently, she had delved deeper into Clara's past, uncovering heartbreaking stories of the discrimination her grandmother endured as a server in 1952 Los Angeles, stemming from her roots in a poor immigrant working-class family. Those details fueled Emily's resolve, transforming personal pain into motivation to persevere through her 2-year trial of invisibility. But the humiliation from Harrington pushed her to a crossroads. Should she end it early by revealing her true identity, or continue enduring to truly understand the value of resilience? The question gnawed at her, forcing Emily to grapple with whether true strength lay in silence or in the moment of standing up against injustice, a theme familiar to the American dream, where the oppressed often emerge as unexpected heroes. Meanwhile, Isabella Harrington sat curled up in the luxurious suite, her insides churning like a whirlwind of inner turmoil, where her family's ostentatious display suddenly felt suffocating and false. Her gentle green eyes were now clouded with tears, but beneath them, a resolve was slowly taking shape, like a crack in the polished facade her family fought to maintain. Isabella had begun reading books on social inequality, works like The Other America, and articles about California's wealth gap, prompting piercing questions about her family's privilege. Why did they treat others like trash when their success was built on the labor of countless invisible people? The emotional storm erupted when Isabella fiercely argued with her parents, condemning their behavior as cruel and senseless. A rare act of rebellion from the girl who always felt out of place amid her brother Dylan's arrogance and her mother Victoria's calculated demeanor. Alexander responded with a threatening tone, warning of the consequences of disrespect, causing Isabella to sob but not back down. Her eyes glinted with determination, like a small flame beginning to blaze. In her solitude, Isabella secretly searched for Emily online, stumbling upon traces of Clara's charitable foundation, an organization supporting working women in the Bay Area, planting seeds of doubt about Emily's true identity. Both women, despite their class divide, were wrestling with conscience and courage. Emily with the weight of her secret, Isabella with her awakening to social injustice, two parallel journeys reflecting the American spirit of inner struggle leading to change. Will these silent struggles lead to a public explosion, or will they remain suppressed by societal pressure? If you were Isabella, would you dare stand up against your own family? Comment below to share your story, because the twists ahead will leave you regretting if you miss them. The inner storm from Emily and Isabella's silent struggles finally crashed into the charity gala at the Lux Pacific Hotel, where twinkling lights transformed the space into a stage of pretense and drama, drawing 500 wealthy guests from the Bay Area, Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and performative philanthropists. Emily, her invisible facade still intact after the morning's humiliation, volunteered to serve drinks amidst the crowd, observing the elite in their natural habitat, flashy smiles as they spoke of generosity, yet eyes gliding over staff like soulless objects, a vivid portrait of inequality Emily had grown all too familiar with over 2 long years. Each tray of wine she carried was a chance to witness the contradiction. Those preaching social responsibility ignored the very underclass serving them, deepening her inner turmoil, like a reminder of her grandmother Clara's mission. Amid the glamorous throng, Mrs. Langley, a 75-year-old widow and former hotel regular, spotted Emily from afar and quietly approached, her eyes sparkling with the wisdom of someone who had seen generations rise and fall in California. She whispered meaningful words, hinting at a connection to Clara and affirming that the 2-year lesson was nearing its end, a subtle encouragement amid the emotional chaos. Mrs. Langley's presence was no mere coincidence. It felt like a sign from fate, bolstering Emily's resolve among the surrounding fake smiles. The gala's tension escalated as Alexander Harrington took the stage, his voice booming with familiar confidence, using the very story of humiliating Emily to illustrate his concept of social responsibility. A carefully calculated speech emphasizing that success wasn't for everyone's dreams, and people like the waitress needed to know their place to maintain social order, a viewpoint reflecting the blindness of privilege. met with polite applause but felt by Emily like sharp stabs. Isabella, seated at the main table with her family, could bear it no longer. The inner storm from their earlier argument erupted, prompting her to stand abruptly in the hushed ballroom. Her face flushed with courage and anger. She publicly denounced her family, her voice trembling but resolute, exposing the senseless cruelty behind her father's polished rhetoric, turning the gala into a public confrontation that sent the crowd into a buzz of whispers and covert video recordings. Mrs. Langley, with the authority of a seasoned aristocrat, interjected, challenging Alexander to justify his behavior, wielding words as a sharp weapon, while Dylan, flustered and angry, tried to pull his sister down, struggling to preserve the family's perfect image. The tension reached its peak with an unexpected humorous twist. Dylan, in his clumsiness, spilled wine on his father's expensive suit, symbolizing the collapse of the arrogant facade they had so carefully constructed, a moment that drew chuckles from the crowd, but struck Emily as a sign of inevitable change. Emily, standing at the back of the room with a tray of drinks now feeling heavy, sensed the decisive moment rushing toward her like an unstoppable current. She stepped forward, holding the hotel's ownership papers, ready to turn the tables and reveal the secret she had kept for 2 years. Will this confrontation lead to the Harringtons' complete downfall, or will it spark a deeper lesson about compassion? Comment 1 if you find the story gripping, to let us know you're still here. Amid the escalating chaos at the Lux Pacific Hotel Gala, where Isabella's defiance and Dylan's unexpected humorous mishap had left the crowd breathless, Emily Harper finally stepped out of the shadows, clutching the ownership papers like a silent weapon, ready to transform the stage into a platform where justice would be revealed. That moment surged through the ballroom like an electric current, silencing the 500 wealthy Bay Area guests, their eyes fixed on the waitress they had scorned just hours earlier. Emily seized the microphone from a flustered Alexander Harrington, her voice resonating with the strength forged from 2 years of silence, an assertion that he was right about her being a server, but utterly wrong about her true place in this world. A hush enveloped the room, as if all of San Francisco held its breath, awaiting a truth that would change everything, a moment reflecting the American spirit of rising from the shadows, where the oppressed become symbols of inner strength. With a calm but compelling voice, Emily revealed the ownership papers of the Lux Pacific, proving she was not just an employee but the true owner of this iconic hotel, inheriting a $50 million fortune from her grandmother Clara, a woman who started as a server in San Diego, overcoming countless instances of discrimination and hardship in the 1952nd to build a West Coast real estate empire. Clara, with her journey from poverty to success, left not only wealth but a profound lesson about true dignity, requiring Emily to live anonymously for 2 years to witness and understand how the wealthy demean the underprivileged, turning each workday into a test of patience and compassion. The ballroom erupted in gasps and astonished whispers. Alexander's face paled, his hands clenching as if trying to hold on to his dwindling authority. Victoria covered her mouth, her sharp beauty now distorted by shock. Dylan stood agape, his phone slipping from his hand as he realized the collapse of his familiar world. Isabella, tears streaming down her cheeks, cried with pride and emotional release from her earlier inner struggles, as if she had found an ally in her fight against her family's arrogance. Emily continued, recounting Clara's journey from toiling in Los Angeles diners to overcoming social barriers to build her legacy, emphasizing that money only makes people luckier, not better, a message that struck the heart of the American audience, where personal dreams are often celebrated but their accompanying responsibilities rarely mentioned. She declared that the Harrington family must leave the hotel within 24 hours, her voice firm but not triumphant, pausing on a humane note, not for revenge, but to teach them about true compassion. where proximity to success doesn't equate to owning it. The crowd burst into enthusiastic applause, phones everywhere recording videos that spread rapidly across social media, turning this twist into a viral phenomenon that forced San Francisco's millionaires to reflect on their privilege. A reminder that justice doesn't always come from courtrooms, but from life's unexpected moments. Will Emily's declaration truly change the Harringtons? Or is it just the start of a larger battle? Can you imagine this moment? Share your thoughts to discuss, because the twists ahead will leave you regretting if you miss them. After the stunning reversal at the Lux Pacific Hotel Gala, where Emily Harper's declaration sent the ballroom into an uproar and forced San Francisco's elite to confront the harsh truth about privilege, the dawn of the next day ushered in a new chapter filled with hope and redemption, a reminder that American justice doesn't end with exposure but with the opportunity for change. Emily woke up in her modest Oakland apartment, her mind still lingering on the echoes of the previous night, the applause, the shocked gazes of the Harrington family, and the power of the truth that had freed her from 2 years of invisibility. But instead of gloating, she felt a deeper sense of responsibility, inspired by her grandmother Clara's legacy, not to destroy, but to uplift, a core humanitarian spirit of the American dream, where even the misguided have a chance to find themselves through labor and humility. That morning, Isabella Harrington appeared at Emily's doorstep, her face still marked by the exhaustion of a sleepless night, but her green eyes now sparkled with determination and gratitude. The girl, once lost amid her family's arrogance, now embodied an awakening, a journey that began with books on inequality and erupted at the gala. Isabella apologized with profound sincerity, admitting that Emily had inspired her to change, turning shame into motivation to stand against the cruelty her family had once perpetuated. Emily listened, her heart stirred by the girl's courage, and instead of expelling the Harringtons as she had declared, she offered a humane proposal. They would work in service roles at the hotel for a month. Experiencing the invisibility and disdain Emily had endured, not as punishment but as a lesson in compassion and responsibility, a nuanced approach, affirming that true change comes from understanding, not retribution. 6 months later, everything had transformed in a miraculous way, like an American success story where failure becomes the foundation for rebirth. Alexander, once a smug tycoon, learned humility through maintenance work, days spent fixing plumbing and mopping floors, teaching him the value of manual labor he had once scorned. Victoria, whose sharp beauty had been used to maintain status, began to appreciate the effort of labor through housekeeping, each small gesture now carrying deeper meaning, transforming her from calculated to empathetic. Dylan, the arrogant heir, unexpectedly discovered a talent for customer service, daily interactions teaching him that success isn't inherited, but built through genuine connection. And Isabella, with her growing resolve, spearheaded a scholarship program for underprivileged students in the Bay Area, turning her experience into motivation to uplift the next generation, a living testament to social responsibility. Years later, the Lux Pacific Hotel no longer shimmered only with marble floors and chandeliers. It radiated something rarer: humanity. Under Emily Harper's ownership, the same halls that once echoed with condescension now hummed with respect. Clara's charitable foundation grew into a force for change, funding scholarships, shelters, and community programs across California. Guests didn't just check in for luxury, they left with a deeper understanding of compassion. Even the Harrington family, once symbols of unchecked arrogance, became champions of tangible good, financing housing projects for San Francisco's homeless and mentoring underprivileged youth. Emily often stood by the lobby's grand windows at sunset, watching the city's skyline glow. She knew wealth alone had never been the prize. The real treasure was using it to restore dignity where it had been denied. Forgiveness had not erased the past, but it had transformed it into a bridge for others to cross. The story of Emily Harper is more than a victory of justice over arrogance. It's a testament to the true measure of an American life. Dignity isn't defined by bank accounts or status, but by how fiercely we protect each other's humanity. From a humiliated waitress to a voice that changed an entire city, Emily proved that the greatest power we hold is the choice to grow instead of harden, to turn wounds into wisdom, and to lift others as we rise. So, if you've ever been overlooked, doubted, or dismissed, remember, your value is unshakable, and your potential to inspire change is limitless. Thank you for walking this journey with us. If you're watching from the US, drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from? What part of Emily's story spoke to you most? Like, subscribe, and share this video because somewhere out there, someone needs this reminder as much as you once did. The best stories are still to come.